It is often the refrain that human beings are churlish, angry, jealous, that human nature is this horrible thing. Truth of the matter is, it's not so much that human nature is those horrible things. Human nature can be those things. Human nature can also be love. It can also be a situation where we're self-sacrificing, where we're doing things for others, where we're working in the benefit of a larger goal, even to our own deprivation. It depends on the environmental circumstances. Environment, in this case, really does indicate or create the reality of the person. Fact of the matter is, human beings, just like anything else, requires certain things for it to prosper in the optimum way. Food, shelter, clean air, clean water, a sense of purpose, or at the very least, feeling like it belongs in a larger context and has a place in that larger context. Insofar as any of those things are absent, that human being will suffer. And in the way that human being suffers, so will the larger society. I say that to say that as individuals have difficult times dealing with their circumstance, so will your larger society. It will be like an illness in that particular society. Look at our current society. You have homelessness that is at record insane levels. If you go to California, you will be stunned by the level of poverty that is in California. Look at the gun violence. Look at the mass shootings. These shootings take place all the time. We have 25% of the world's jails filled. The people dying of opioid abuse. I'm making a point to you that these things are symptoms of a sick society. These are not indications of a well society. To this, the political establishment, the political edifice that is supposed to be there to deal with the amelioration of the working class, the release valve of the capitalistic system, non-existent. It used to be there, non-existent. You have record levels of income inequality. The UN issues a scathing report saying tens of millions of Americans are living in extreme poverty. And to this, the Trump administration gives a tax cut to the top 1%, while simultaneously declining giving an increase to the public sector workers, saying that we can't afford to do it. Your society has issues. Going even further, over the majority of the society don't have $500 in the bank, meaning if a bill hits, they'll be in dire straits. These things are issues of a sick society, having difficult compensating, essentially not having access to the things that it needs, not being in a situation where it can exhibit the most optimum of behaviors. To this, or you could say taking advantage of this, you have the expression of rage and anger of that society. The society itself, the rage and anger associated with the society, whether it's being expressed on the left through a Sanders or through the right of a Trump, is legitimate. The rage and anger is legitimate. The needs of the individuals and the people of the society are not being met, and they are looking for expression. Unfortunately, that expression has been pushed in the direction of Donald Trump because the Democratic Party didn't give an answer to the amelioration of the working class. Donald Trump has been holding hate rallies. Let's be honest and call it what it is. He was holding hate rallies before the election. He's continued to hold hate rallies after the election. Again, the rage and anger is legitimate. The area to which it's being siphoned, not so much. Take a look at this. I'm a Vigilant. Just finished covering another Trump rally in Mesa, Arizona. Two observations. One, yet another Trump rally with supporters lining around the blocks, filling stadiums to see him. Grassroots support is real. The Arizona crowd was the most hostile towards the media I've ever seen. This is back in August 2018, but this is not atypical in regards to the rallies that Trump has been holding. Donald Trump ramped up his attacks on the media on Thursday night, criticizing the press as fake, disgusting news and describing journalists in attendance as horrible, horrendous people, despite the UN experts warning early in the day that his actions were putting journalists at risk. Not just journalists at risk, by the way. But again, I want to make this very clear point. The anger and resentment at the political system is legit. And even though Donald Trump lies flamboyantly and dramatically, there is a kernel of truth in his idea, more than the kernel of truth, that the media has been way overboard in regards to the way that they've been attacking him, far more than any other person that I can think of in political history. If they would have spent an iota of that time investigating the Hillary Clinton emails, that woman, let's not go there. But you get my point. Take a look at this. This is something else that's interesting.
Russia is not our friend, and that they are undermining our democracy by hacking into our elections and trying to determine, as they have done, who should be president of the United States, and that's very important. At the same time, we fight very hard for health care. We're trying to preserve the ACA while they're trying to undo it with Trump care that's going to throw 34 million people out of health care. And so we know how to do both, and we're doing that.
When you say Russia's not our friend, was Obama mistaken to forge military cooperation with Russia in Syria and to try to get a START treaty?
Look, you and I have a different agenda, young man. I'm out to impeach this president. Get that straight. I'm out to impeach the president. I'm not going to be diverted by people who are...
Maxine Waters looks like a crazed lunatic in this. Russia didn't hack in any elections, and this idea that Russia got Trump elected is nonsense. The media has ran with this shit for 2 fucking years. I mean, the rage and anger against the political class is legitimate. If you're in a situation where you can see where the people are setting themselves on fire in order to protect Wall Street, while simultaneously letting homeowners go bust. That's African Americans' wealth was held in their houses. But it's not just African Americans. It's across the political spectrum in regards to people being in difficult straits and having their lives be materially worse. And the political establishment and the media has essentially ran with nonsense like this. That said, even though Maxine Waters in this case is looking magnificently hysterical and is talking utter nonsense, 2 bombs were sent to her residence. Now, this is in addition to bombs being sent to Hillary and Obama and Eric Holder. And apparently CNN, at which point CNN loses this shit and flips out and gets everyone out the building. And at that point, just bathes in this idea of it, because at that point, the media now has something where they can focus on to make people terrified. Be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. They set bombs to us, they set bombs to us. And incentivize, just from the standpoint of media, if it bleeds, it leads. Well, it leads. They love it. They're going to talk about it forever. This has gone too far. 2 scenarios here. Either a Trump supporter at one of these hate rallies has essentially internalized the message that Donald Trump has told him and has looked at Trump political enemies and sent out bombs. Or this is some situation where these hate rallies has allowed someone to take advantage of the fact that Trump has been running these hate rallies and has sent these in order to kind of let's say, not necessarily embarrass, but to point a finger at the fact that these hate rallies have been taking place and take advantage of this. Whichever one this has gone too far. Again, human beings can be obtuse. Human beings can also be loved. I would ask that we resist this thing of fear, that we resist this thing of acting in these ways. Yes, the media is horrendous. No, they don't talk about real things. Yes, people are in bad straits. No, they don't necessarily deal with those things, because ultimately dealing with those things impacts their bosses, impacts their taxes. And all of these guys are, for the most part, in the top 1%. These guys are living in an ivory tower, and they are somehow separate and distinct from the public. And if we're being honest, what they talk about is nonsense. They've talked about this Trump and Russia stuff for God knows how long. What about student debt? What about people being able to pay their health care? What about the poverty that's in California? The UN report, this hair on fire report that the UN issued about poverty in the United States, be it in Puerto Rico, being in California, being in West Virginia. Why do you think the Republican Party was able to get 1,100 seats all throughout the United States? Do you think it was because of the awesome policies of the Republican Party, or the fact that the Democratic Party has completely abdicated its responsibilities to the political system? I guarantee you it was the latter. That said, sending bombs is dramatically too far. And if this is where we are, yes, somebody made the decision to do this, but let's be honest that this came out of environmental context where people were in bad, dire straits, and they weren't being heard by these elites in the media and in political space. This has gone too far. We are one. I don't say that it's kind of hippie way. And when I was trying to think of the title for this Choose Love, I don't mean this in the hippie way. We are the 99%. And as the 99%, our collective interests are, for all intents and purposes, based in class. As a class, we are united. The guy in Bumfuck, Louisiana, has just as much in common with me, far more than the person of his particular, let's say, race, but of a different class. I guess I'm just trying to make this sense, and maybe I'm using this in a more tortured way, that we need to start paying attention to our collective self-interest. If the top 1% want to look out for their interests, fair enough. And if they want to use this thing of individualism and all this other stuff, fair enough. We as individuals can make decisions in our own collective self-interest as individuals. And what the point I will make to you is 95% of the worth going to the top 1% is a fail. That's an utter fail. We are the individuals that keep the society going. We, the cooks, the bakers, the candlestick makers, the haberdashers, as one of my subscribers likes to point out, the electricians, the people who fix our coffee, who fix our roads, the people who build our bridges. Us! The idea that our collective worth goes to the top 1%, 95% of our worth. And then we look around and wonder why people are freaking out, why people are pissed off. Their worth is being expropriated to the top and is making their lives materially more difficult. And yes, they may express this in the sense of racial hatred at times. They may express this in the sense of hatred of the elites and all this other stuff. But let's be very clear where this is coming from and the origin of this. The worth of this nation is being ferreted away to a small body of greedy men. And we, as a collective, need to make the determination that that needs to stop. This may be expressed through the rage of Donald Trump, but let's be very clear on where this comes from. It is time that we as a society, if what we're doing, if the way that we're organized ferrets away 95% of the worth to the top 1%, then we need to reorganize ourselves in a way that doesn't do that. It's time for a change. Let's start now. Sending bombs is an indication of the failure in the way that we've been going about our way. And it's time for that to change. I'm not going to keep this one long. The Lone Chemist. Just to support your channel, also I'm writing my next video essay since I'm an insomniac. Since you're a politics guy, what is the most effective film about war in your opinion? We'll credit you. Keep it up, Jamal. Ah, thank you, Lone Chemist. The most effective film about war. What is it called? All Clear at the Western Front. This is an old one, but it's a good one. There's plenty of films about Vietnam. What's the one with, I can't think of the one with the guy with his hands raised in the air at the end of it where the bombs are falling and the Vietnamese are coming after him and kill him. I can't think of the name of that film. But All Quiet on the Western Front is a good one. It shows the ridiculousness of war. Like ultimately these people will try to take a little bit of land, lose it a little bit of land. Take a little bit of land, lose it a little bit of land. Most of the war is not really even talked about. You only get it in certain parts where the soldiers finally get to the point of like, this is utter nonsense. Why are we here? It's a damn good film. It's representative of the book itself. And if I'm not mistaken, it's written by a German author. Also, a film by Robert McNamara. Robert McNamara has a video where he talks about these lessons that he's learned over the course of his life. And in the lessons that he's learned over the course of his life, he gets into this thing of understanding the perspective of the other. It's an amazing film. Has this kind of crisis of conscience after living a life where he's drawing up war plans and all of these people that were being killed in the Vietnam War and World War II, in the bombing raids for Japan. And he's looking over his life and he's thinking of the lessons that he should have known when he was younger and the lessons that he appropriated. And one of those things was, you need to understand the situation of the other. It is not enough for you to be able to pursue your own ends, particularly in regards to war, because there are often times that a bunch of killing starts before you even understand why you're doing the killing. Robert McNamara's film will be a big one, but All Quiet on the Western Front, All Quiet on the Western Front will be another. So I'll end this here. All right, guys. Yes, I was already covering All Quiet on the Western Front. Yeah, it's a good one. It's long, but it's good. And in fact, the way the film is set up, even the propaganda that's given to the German soldiers as they're kids, it's a fascinating film. Platoon, that's it. Platoon, thank you. Platoon, that's it. All right, I'm going to end this here. We are getting to an uncharted waters. Bombs used to be sent during the Vietnam War, but this is different. This is not bombs being sent to protest the war. This is being sent as political violence. If these are legit, meaning if these are coming from some kind of Trump supporter, and if this is a situation of people trying to go after Trump's enemies. And I say if because we don't know. It is possible that there is some insane Hillary supporter or some insane, person who just wants to kind of show up Trump on this. Either way, he's made himself vulnerable with these hate rallies. Because it's very clear and it's fair to say that what do you do after a hate rally like that? Do you honestly believe that after one of those rallies that the ire and the hatred towards the media and all this other stuff dissipates? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. By the same token, again, that hatred is not necessarily wrong. It's just being ferreted in ways that's not necessarily advantageous. So I'll end this here. All right, guys. You all have a good one. I'll see you probably later this evening. Later this evening or tomorrow. I have a treatment this evening, so we'll see how I feel. But thanks all.